Okay.
Yeah. Now she says it's working.
Yes, you're live.
Okay. So, hi everybody, and welcome to this opening session for the hands-on pilot number 2. We're going to start today with an introduction to the course and introduction of all the participants in the pilot. The pilot will last for 5 weeks, and you will learn how to create an ICT-based learning activity. I'm just going to briefly introduce the hands-on project, and I'll show you in a minute a brief graphic that we created for this project. No sure meet. Okay, so this is an image that we had created for the proposal of the project, and it just explains visually how the things we want to address with this pilot and this project overall. So what happens most often is that teachers and educators do try specific tools, ICT tools, but the process is really cumbersome and it takes too much time. So what we want to avoid with this project is to have an environment and a community that helps teachers and educators to choose the right tools and use them with the support of peer mentoring. And this is what we're going to try with this second pilot of the project, that we will be applying the Learning Design Studio that Yeshai Moore will briefly introduce us. So I'm just going to hand it to you now. Oh, okay. I'll show the image afterwards. I don't hear Yeshai. Hello.
Hi.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I thought we were going to introduce the other facilitators first.
Oh, you want to?
Yeah, why don't we just introduce everyone, because I think it's important that people get to know the facilitators that are going to interact with them. What do you say?
Yes. Do you want to go ahead?
Okay, so shall I introduce myself and then?
Yes, and then we.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, oh, maybe I should switch off the screen share so you can see me. Hi. So I'm Yeshai Moore. Previously computer scientist, now learning scientist. Worked for quite a few years at the Knowledge Lab, then University of Haifa, and at the Open University. And recently I've started my own consultancy. I was the leader of the old, the Open Learning Design Studio MOOC, and also been involved in learning design in various ways for several years. I think, probably get to know more about me as we go along through the MOOC. So I'll pass on. So who's next?
Gemma?
Hello, everybody. I'm Gemma Guado, and I'm a learning technician at the Open University of Catalonia, where I work at the Office of Learning Technologies. And my responsibility here is to offer support to teachers. And I'm going to be one of the facilitators of the course. I'm very nice to meet you.
Okay, Carlos?
Hello, my name is Carlos Hernandez, although you cannot see me.
Aquí, que no se
Hello, it's so beautiful to work with technology. It makes you be more flexible, polyvalent, and it makes you gain lots of resources. So after that, my name is Carlos Hernandez. I'm going to be the third facilitator in the course. I'm also part of the staff of the Open University of Catalonia. My degree is on educational sciences, and I work as instructional designer and project manager. here. And I hope to see you in the Moodle.
Okay. So, Yishai, they say that the people that are following us within the room, they say that there is a big delay. Okay. So I'm just gonna, before you go on, okay, with the introduction, I'm just gonna briefly introduce myself because I didn't do it earlier. My name is Miriam Carreta, and I'm the project coordinator of the hands-on ICT project. And I work also at the Office of Learning Technologies, and my background is in journalism and user experience. So now I'm gonna switch to you, and so you can introduce the Learning Design Studio framework. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just switch to the Prezi that I've prepared for this. And you can, I hope everybody can see it. So this is going to be a very brief introduction to learning design and to the Learning Design Studio. I'll start with talking a bit about, what do I mean by design, right? And I'd like to kind of quote first Tim Brown. I don't know if you know, he's a sort of founder and director of IDEO Design Agency. He talks a lot about design thinking. And the idea is, as he says, it's to take the designer's sensibility and methods to match people's needs with what is technologically possible, and he puts in the business strategy angle as well. So basically it's understanding what people need and then understanding how we use existing and available resources to make that into a viable opportunity. Also, I always like to go back to Herbert Simon, who said, everyone designs who devises courses of action aimed at changing existing situations into desired ones. That's a very kind of broad vision of what it means to design. Now, what does that have to do with education? Well, again, another quote from John Dewey about, when our schools turn into laboratories of knowledge making, then we will no longer need to discuss a place of design, science in education. So, Dewey talks about schools as he said, laboratories of knowledge making, and it's not about just delivering content, but it's about giving learners the experience which would allow them to really create knowledge. In that sense, also, you can think of education as changing existing states of mind into desired ones. So that's, in a way, as educators, what we're trying to do, to change people's state of mind. And that, for me, has a parallel with Herbert Simon's idea of design, of changing existing situations. He talks about states of the world. We're talking about states of mind. So that gives us this kind of understanding of education as learning design, or design for learning. Now, design has some qualities. First of all, it's a creative practice, and that sort of fits in with the focus of, I think, the hands-on ICT, on creativity in ICT. So design is, by definition, creative, but it's also empathetic, and people talk about design thinking or design and talk about empathy for the user as a starting point. In our case, empathy for the learner, understanding what the learner needs, what are his constraints, what particular situation is in. It's responsive to needs, but also responsive to the opportunities, and also you try to create something, and you play around with the materials, and you see the effect it has, and then you iterate on that. So you don't design something in a vacuum, but it's also a kind of a dialogue with the world. And it's reflective. And this, what I mean by reflective, is that you really take the time to try to understand if your design has actually achieved the effect that you intended it for. So that brings me to Donald Schoon's idea of design as reflective conversation with materials of the situation. What he means is that when you design something, you're trying to achieve some goal in the world, but you don't really know if what you create would achieve that effect. So it's kind of a, it's a continuous conversation with whatever resources you have with your user or learners in our case, which then positions it both as a mode of inquiry, trying to make sense of a very complex situation, and as you said, a mode of design in the sense of trying to use whatever materials you have to create something which should achieve a desired effect. So that's kind of a very sort of brief overview of design. And this brings me to the model of design inquiry of learning as a model of innovation in education. And the idea of design inquiry of learning is that you start by imagining an educational challenge, an educational situation, and what kind of need or you want to address in that situation. You then investigate that context. You try to get really a very clear understanding of that situation. Who are the learners? Where are they coming from? What are the resources available? What are the limitations, constraints? The inspire phase it means that you look at existing examples of similar innovations or innovation addressing similar needs, and see what you find relevant to your context. Then you go through an ideation or conceptualization phase, prototyping, meaning creating a rough, crude, very quick implementation of whatever innovation you're working on, evaluating that, and reflecting. So this cycle of design inquiry and learning, in a way, is a model for educational practice, or also for development of educational practitioners. That model is also, again, when we talk about design, designers usually work in the studio, and the studio has also been used as a metaphor for design education. So that led to the development of the Learning Design Studio as a model, as a sort of a model of educational activity. And this model has been used in various courses, both online or face-to-face or MOOCs. I won't get into all these details. You can look them up later. What I'd like to go is really quickly go through roughly the process of the design studio. First thing is what we call the Dream Bazaar, where people come up with that sort of equivalent to the imagine phase, where people share their ideas, share their dreams, their fantasies about what is the kind of change they want to do in the context in which they work. Then we want to go through the team up phase because that's not relevant to our course. But then there's the idea of investigating using various representations and tools to get a better idea of who your learners are, what is a situation in which they're working and you're working, to understand what is possible, what is viable, and so on. Connecting the looking at existing examples or existing resources and trying to connect them in to your situation. Then conceptualizing, we'll use storyboards, but there are other conceptualization representation. We might briefly touch on them. Creating, like I said, a rough, crude implementation, which is really something that you play around and then can throw away if you don't like it, but it gives you a tangible idea of what the activity you're designing would look like in real life. And finally, like I said, evaluating and reflecting on that. So that's roughly the sort of the route that we will follow in this MOOC. We will use an environment called the ILD, which is developed by the METIS project. That environment is a collaborative learning and design environment, and it gives us a lot of tools which would support this process, as I've described before. And again, you can read more about the METIS project in the ILD and these links. So that's, like I said, a very short or very brief introduction, and in the Moodle you'll see other resources which can help you if you want to get into further depth.
Okay. Thanks,
Okay.
Isha. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you go to the Q&A, you have a question. We also copied in the chat. Can you see it?
Yes, so does a solution necessarily need to be an innovation? I like to quote Bruno Latour, who says that design is always redesign. So, you might be actually reusing something that's already available. Usually, you always reuse, and that's also, like Don Shun says, conversation with the materials of the situation, right? You're always working with existing resources, but you always also make a slight change, because any situation that you get into is slightly different than a previous situation. And also, even if it's very similar, you've learned something from the past and you adapt it. So definitely adaptations of existing solutions would count as designs as well. Any more questions from the chat? Or by the way, we haven't mentioned the chat, but if you go into the Moodle, then you would see a link to the Moodle chat. So if you need to ask any questions, you can use that, or you can use the hands-on pilot 2 hashtag in Twitter if you prefer that channel.
Yes. Thank you, Ishai. So there's no more questions, and we are following what's the chat in the Moodle. So please do use any of these tools that you have available if you want to communicate with us. So now we're going to switch to Carlos. He's going to introduce the environment you will be using for these 5 weeks of course. We don't hear you. You need to go.
Okay, Mireia, ready. Okay, hello again. Sorry for the inconveniences. In fact, it's our first hangout with so many people at the same time, and technology is not helping completely, but we're still happy with that. It's growing pretty well. So I'd like to give you a short overview of the technology that we are going to use in the course, which is basically going to be a Moodle. I think that most of you already know what Moodle is. We are using Moodle because it's a quite famous and quite well-known technology. It's open source, and it has demonstrated in the last years to work very well. And it's also pretty interesting to be used as a MOOC. So in fact, we are going to work with 2 technologies. We have Moodle, which is the place where we will present the activities, where we will have the interaction with you. And on the other hand, as Yishai said before, we are going to have another tool which is called ILDE, which is the place where you will develop the activities related with learning design. This tool ILD contains a set of templates and small tools that will facilitate this process of learning design, will facilitate to create your own learning designs. So regarding the Moodle, I'd like to share my screen, but I don't have it here now because I'm not in my computer. So 1 second, please. Okay. Sorry again. Okay, it seems that I should be sharing my screen now. Okay, here we are. Yes, here we are. Okay, so this is the Moodle that we are using. It's quite a simple Moodle with a simple structure. 1 second. Someone is helping me with all these screens that I have on my computer. Probably I shouldn't be working with computers. Okay, so this is the Moodle that we are using in the MOOC course. It's a simple Moodle that has a main screen where we will present the activities, the course, and on the left side you will have some widgets, some blocks that will help you to that will provide extra services for the course. But I would like to have a look now at the top navigation, which is the navigation where I have the pointer now. First of all, I have a section called Learning Design Studio. This is just a summary of the technique. So if you want to know a little bit more about it, you have a link at the end. So it's what this site has been doing in the last 5 minutes, but you can get more information if you visit the link. Also, we have a section called Ict Tools. We have dedicated a specific option for a section for Ict Tools because for us they are really important. In fact, the introduction of Ict Tools in our educational practices are one of the bases for innovation. So we thought that we needed to have a section for Ict Tools, and what we are doing here is you will find a small section about why we need these Ict Tools and a list of all the tools that you will be able to introduce in your learning design. There will be more. We will add more during the course, but let's say that these are the ones that we are using for starting. Also, you will find that there's a second course in this Moodle, which is called something like Open Educational Resources and How to Use ICTs for Teaching and Learning. This is a course we have created, and the objective is also to support you in the selection of the right ICT tool for your learning design. So what you will find here, first of all, we are not accessing now the course, but basically it's a collection of open educational resources that will support you in a good selection of ICT tools. We can see it now. So first of all, you will find that there's a section about how to pick an appropriate tool, and we are use the Bloom taxonomies for this objective. So what you will find is that the 6 classic categories of Bloom applied to specific tools. And then you will find that we have several types of ICT tools like blogs, wikis, microblogging, Web 2.0, Google Tools, videos, and inside you will find several open educational resources that can help you in the right selection of an ICT tool for your learning design. Also, if we continue up in the top navigation menu, you will find that there's a section called Community. In this section, we'll have 2 links. The first link is the forums. So in this space, we give you the opportunity to create your own forums. So for example, if you are interested to discuss something which is not very specifically related to, with the activities with your classmates, you can do it here. You can create the forums that you want. Not now, because it seems that Moodle provided an error. So can you hear me? It seems that something failed. Okay, so if you can visit the Moodle site, you will see that there's also a links section below the community button. Here we are going to include a lot of links that can be very interesting for you. Then we have a button called About Course. Here we have 3 options. We have the program, the syllabus of the course. So if you access there, you will see the list of all the topics that we are going to deal with in the course. The second section there, it's the frequently asked questions. So if you have any doubt with the course and you want to solve it, let's say quickly, probably you will find the response there. And finally, we have the methodology of the course. So in the methodology, we describe the pedagogical aspects. We give an overview of the methodology, the names and the photos of the facilitators as well, all the things that are related to methodology. Also, although the course is going to be only in English, if you want to change the language of the functionalities of the Moodle, you can do it through the language button. Well, basically, that's all. If you go down on the page, you will see the access to the two courses we have created, how to use the Ict Tools and the course about learning design. So if you want to access to them, you will find them there. I'll be your technical support during the course. So if you need any help, I'm gonna be the one who will reply you. Thank you. Jishai, if you want to answer some of the questions, I'll let you do it.
So I see there was another question asking if we're inspired by the design thinking concept. And I mean, I did mention Tim Brown's design thinking. I think we'll add a link to that paper into the further reading resources. So it's definitely one of our sort of points of inspiration, but there's also another point of inspiration. It's a whole tradition of educational design research. So essentially in this model of design inquiry of learning, we're trying to find a balance between the creative and the reflective elements of learning design. And we're trying to both give something that is rigorous, but also is relevant to practitioners and useful for practitioners. That's why design thinking on one hand, but design-based research on the other hand, and trying to find a balance between those two. I hope this will make more sense as we go along. But in any case, if there's any more questions at this point, very happy to respond.
Okay. Thanks, Ishai. So now we've seen, Ishai gave us a short introduction about Learning Design Studio. Carlos went through the Moodle, the environment that you will be using, and now Gemma is going to introduce you the course and the different activities we will do.
Hello, everybody again. I want to give you a brief introduction of the course, of how it's organized in the Moodle, but I want to share my screen. I think it's this one. Okay. I think you can see my screen right now. If you access the Moodle course, you will find that now all the content of the course is visible. So you can see the first document we've published that is called the syllabus, where you can access to all the activities that we are going to do during these 5 weeks. The organization, as you can see here in the screen, is using weeks. Every week we have a set of activities. For reading the description of each activity, you have to click on the activity, and you will find the description and also instructions of where you have to develop this activity. The most of them are going to be developed in ILDE, in ILDE, as Giselle and Carlos have explained. But there are others that we are going to use other tools. But everything is going to be explained here in the description of the activity. So as you can see also, every week we are going to work one stage of the learning design process. The first week we are going to work some warm-up activities, and then next week we are going to begin with the stage of investigate. Next week, inspire and ideate, then prototype, and at the end, evaluate and reflect. So if you have any doubt with the use of the technologies that are going to support the developing of the activities, you can access the technical support forum, where we are going to answer as quick as possible to your doubts. But right now, for begin the course, I think it's a good idea to go to the initiate phase and access to the activity 1 and begin with these little activities that are for warming up the course. For example, the first activity that is very easy is to go to Google Maps and pin in your name and make a brief introduction in the world map. So in this way, we can know everybody that is participating in the course. If again, if you have any doubt of the goals of the activities or about the technical aspects, go to the beginning of the course and click on the forum here in technical support. So I don't want to go week by week because there's a lot of things that you have to do first. So that's all the description I wanted to do.
Okay, thank you, Gemma. So before we proceed, I'm going to answer the question. So no, you don't need to know any programming. What do you mean by enrolling the second MOOC? You can, if you want to do the MOOC, you should go to the Moodle and enroll. And then, yes, we will have a link to the webinar, and you can find it on the Moodle if you go there. So before we close, and if you don't have any more questions, I'm just going to quickly show again the image that we had for the...
So, Maria, there were
Yes.
a few other questions. There's one question about if it's necessary to know any programming.
Oh,
And I think the answer to that is no, right?
no,
So
exactly.
the idea, this book is really, it's designed for educational practitioners. We don't assume that you know any programming. If you do know programming and you want to use that, of course, it would be an advantage, but there's definitely not. It's definitely not necessary. As for the other MOOC, I think maybe Nikos was asking about the old MOOC, because there are some links that point to the old MOOC, and that's something that maybe we need to explain. That old MOOC ran in a bit over a year ago, so it's not an active MOOC, but all the resources from old MOOC are available as OERs. So that's why you can go and look at those resources and kind of see more information about some of the topics that we will discuss here, and see the examples of the work that people have done in old MOOC. But you don't have to register anything. If you're registered for this MOOC, just follow through the activities and you'll be fine. Yeah? And then, are we going to have a session at the same time every day? No, we're not. I mean, this live session is just a unique session to open the MOOC. We will have a weekly, what we call a Convergence Hangout towards the end of the week. Other than that, all the activities will be done through Moodle. So all the activities are asynchronous. Okay. Let's see if there's any more questions.
There is one if you want to answer that says, does design learning apply to all grades?
I think design learning, or learning design actually. So it's not design learning, but it's learning design or designing for learning. I think it applies for learners from the day they're born till the day they die. It's an approach to how we conduct educational practice. It's like a very learner-centered approach, community-oriented approach. So the idea is that again, when you think about your work as an educator, you don't think about, okay, this is a syllabus that I have to go through, but you think about what is the learning experience I want to provide to my learners. And then how do I use the available resources to create that learning experience? And that, I think, is relevant to any age and any sector in education. So working under uncertainty conditions, how can we be sure that we're acting well? Wow, this is becoming quite an interesting discussion. You can't be sure. That's why you need to constantly evaluate. That's why you need to move in small iterations. That's what, again, going back to Donald Schoen, about design being reflective conversation with the materials of the situation. You design something because you think it would have a certain effect, but you don't know until you try it. That's why we try to evaluate things at the conceptual phase, and that's why we then prototype and evaluate the prototype. And gradually we're more and more confident that we have the right thing. More questions coming in. I think the kind of meta course, this is a kind of meta course. We learn how to design, but in fact we already design. Yes, well, I think one of the arguments that people say when I present the idea of learning design, say, well, that's what educators do anyway, right? That's what an experienced teacher does every day. And you're right, it is, but it's done usually in a very tacit way, sort of a subconscious, intuitive way. The idea about learning design as a field of activity is to give you representations and techniques that would allow you to make this activity visible and so allow you to really reflect or kind of go into sort of a meta mode, looking at the way you design, sharing your designs and discussing them with others. Any more questions? They're coming quicker than I can, yeah. Let's have a look. So I don't know if Maria or if somebody else wants to respond to any of the questions I've been sort of
Yeah, no, I think you did perfectly. So I don't see any more questions coming in, unless someone still wants to use the opportunity. And just before we close this session, an opening session, just a reminder, I think you said it, that the hashtag is hands-on pilot 2. And then if you still haven't registered, go to the Moodle. You will see all the information required for registering on handsoниct.eu. And I'm just going to go back to the image we created for the proposal. I think that you couldn't see it before, but I don't think, oh, now? Okay. No. Do you see the image, Yishai? No.
Yeah.
Huh? Because there is a delay, so I don't know if you're seeing it or not. The little drawing. Oh well. I'm just going to quickly go again about the purpose of this project. The project aims at introducing and facilitating the introduction of ICT tools within the education realm. So our rationale behind this is that ICT, no, I'm having, okay. Now, yes? No. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead. So we started with the idea that introducing ICT is a cumbersome task. It always requires a lot of time by individual educators. Mostly they start with a teaching need. With this teaching need that they want to address, they do a searching for the specific tool, figure it out and set up, and afterwards they include this ICT tool in the classroom. So normally this is a very successful experience, and both students and educators are happy with it, but they are also exhausted. So the thing that we want to address with the ICT project is to avoid doing all this process by themselves. So we want to help educators to create a community and to have peer mentoring and peer review to really do this process and learn from what other people have gone through before just going through themselves. And with this MOOC, with this second pilot, we want to do so by following the Learning Design Studio approach, because it makes you think and educators think about the end users, the students, and what is the need that needs to be addressed. And then there's a process of prototyping and evaluating and reflecting. So I'm just going to remind you the address for the project. It's handsoниct.eu. You will find all the information there and all the address to log in if you haven't done. And I don't think, are there any questions? Yes. As I see, design inquiry learning implies new dynamics and culture in many educational institutions. At least around here, it implies changing their relationship with knowledge. Well, I think, Roberto, that you can do both ways. You can do it individually and apply Learning Design Studio or Design Inquiry Learning on your own as part of your everyday activities. And maybe this can help change the culture and the dynamics. But you don't need to have the institution change. You can do it also on your individual practice, and maybe this will engage and make change the institution as a whole. I don't know, maybe Ishay wants to add something about this.
Well, I think, obviously, in the end of the day, we want to change the world, right? So we would like to see kind of institutional change. We would like to see, a change of culture. But change of culture doesn't really come from above. It comes from the grassroots. So I think if more and more people, more and more educators turn to switch their perception of their practice and see themselves as designers, eventually that I hope that change would propagate up, and hopefully institutions would and societies will also come to acknowledge our role as designers of learning. Of course, it won't happen in 2 days, but maybe I do believe that's the direction we're going, at least the direction we should be going. I want to say generally, I think really there's some great questions here, and maybe probably just the minute we close the session, a lot of people would have some more great questions. So maybe just to mention that there's a forum in Moodle. There's a forum for this week. There's a kind of a discussion we started in the forum called Initial Thoughts, and you can post your questions in that thread, or if you want to open a new thread, you can do that. But don't go crazy. Okay. So yeah, I think, are there any other questions at this moment, or should we?
Yeah, I'm just gonna quickly remind that they will have a pre-survey, so you have on the side news the URL for the survey, and also you can go to the week activities and start working on the activities that Gemma mentioned. Welcome to Design Studio, which we just did, and setting up your Design Studio journal, and then start thinking on your Dream Bazaar and your educational challenge. And then we will also, as Ishay was saying, communicate with you through the forum. You have a week first forum, and you can just put in your initial thoughts, and we'll have another convergence session on Friday. So I think that's all the announcements, and thanks for joining in, and see you soon in the Moodle. Bye.